Am I the jerk for not letting my daughter have locks for her room? My daughter Lara, who is 17, has been struggling to focus on her studies with her brothers Kyle and Ryan, 12 and 9 years old, constantly disrespecting her privacy. A few days ago, she was yelling for Kyle to come to her room. I asked her what happened. She explained that Kyle flipped all her items upside down. I called Kyle to come and flip everything right side up. Yesterday, Ryan was running into her room and kept stealing her stuff while she ran to get it back. On the night of the same day, Lara was trying to sleep when her brothers suddenly barged in and ran through her room, resulting in her screaming at them to stay out and close the door while she was sleeping, to give just a few examples. Today in the morning, her father told her he didn't like the way she was screaming. She said that she was trying to sleep and her brothers were making all kinds of ruckus. He told her that they are kids and they will learn, but she said that they will never learn, and the only way for them to learn is to have a lock installed for her room. My husband doesn't want her to do that, and they went back and forth on this until she threatened that she'd move out as soon as she became financially independent, since she wasn't going to wait for them to mature and they should already know to respect her privacy, to which he said to wait and include me in the conversation. I overheard, and when she went to her room, I told her she wasn't going to have locks set up because she already wastes her time without the need for locks, and I don't want her to fail. Lara said that they were never going to listen without them, and I told her that I would make sure they wouldn't enter her room. This evening, I heard her shouting for me. We were all in the living room. Her father explained what was going on. Lara said that she was making Kyle tea when he did something he's not allowed to do. She said that she was going to tell on him, and he said that if she promises not to tell, he and Ryan will never go into her room again. But she didn't say that she would or wouldn't, so they ran upstairs to her room. I told her that she has no right to complain, since she always sleeps in Kyle's room after school. Her brothers all agree, and Lara calls all of us the worst. None of us are allowed in her room, and leaves. She comes back after a minute and says that she only sleeps in Kyle's room because he never uses it aside from sleeping at night, and if he was to use it for studying, then she would never go there. Meanwhile, they constantly disturb her, mess with her stuff, and make her unable to sleep just last night. I told her if they ever go into her room, she needs to come to me. Then Kyle starts saying that they have the right to go into her room while she was trying to sleep because they were playing. Lara yelled at him and then said that she couldn't wait to move out soon so she no longer has to deal with them. She also called me an awful mother for not giving her bedroom locks. Am I the jerk for being upfront and telling my parents that I am putting them in a home? My family is from South Asia, but we live in the States. My parents loved my older brother and tolerated me. They expected me to just stay home and take care of them and my brother. That wasn't for me. I got a partial scholarship to a state school and got the frick out. I worked the 4 years of my undergrad and was fortunate enough to get a full scholarship for my after degree. So I graduated university with only a small debt and 2 degrees. I found a career that I really enjoy and a husband who loves me. My parents pay for my brother's education and he does very well for himself. But he's chosen to have 5 children, and they all go to private school and all have kinds of extracurricular activities, and his wife is a stay-at-home mum, even though they have a nanny. I know 5 young children would be difficult to manage. I'm just saying that she has a degree as well, but they've chosen to be a one-income household. We are expecting our first child. We waited a few years before deciding to start a family. We'll be stopping at 2, and my husband will be getting a vasectomy afterwards. We're very much in agreement about our future. My parents, however, decided that they're going to sell their home and come and live with us. We have a large property with an in-law suite in an HCOL city on the west coast. I told my husband that I didn't want them living with us though, and he concurred, so I told them no. But they said that they'd already listed their home and that a dutiful daughter would take care of her parents in their old age. I said that if they give me all the money from the sale of their home, I would find them a nice retirement home where they could live and that I would pay the bills until they passed away. They didn't like that idea very much. They called me an ungrateful child and that it was expected of me. I sent them a check for 1 year's worth of rent, food, utilities, and sundries. I said I moved out 1 year after I turned 18 and that they were responsible for me up to that point. I then told them not to contact me again without going through my lawyer. I've been playing whack-a-mole, blocking all of their attempts to reach me, and all of the family members both in the States and back home that are calling me a jerk. My brother contacted me and said that I was making the family look bad by not taking them in. So I gave him the choice of either taking them in himself or never bringing it up to me again, or I'd be going no contact with him as well. So, was I too harsh? And does that make me a jerk? I should probably add that they didn't approve of me marrying a person not from their culture and religion, so they didn't contribute to our wedding even though they did attend. Am I the jerk for returning my husband's birthday gift to pay for the birthday cake my daughter baked after he refused to pay her? My 16-year-old daughter has a thing for baking. She bakes cakes and some, I said some, not all, sweets, and makes money out of it by selling her work to relatives, friends, and supposedly us. My husband, her stepdad, had his 45th birthday a few days ago. He asked my daughter to bake him the birthday cake, and she agreed. I told him about paying her, to which he responded with, "Pff, pay her? Get out of here, I'm her dad." I insisted, seeing she's a yes person and a people pleaser, so won't outright demand money from him. He said he'd pay, but days went by and he didn't pay her a cent. I decided to go ahead and sell the wristwatch that I bought him for his birthday and give my daughter the money as payment for the cake. He found out and went off on me. I told him he had enough time and should have paid her 7 days before receiving the cake. He said that I was teaching her to treat familial relationships as transactional and raising her to be materialistic. I explained the time, effort, and even money she put towards making the cake, but he lashed out verbally, calling me a jerk for making this move and for enabling my daughter to expect so much from family that she's supposed to help with nothing in return. He is furious and told almost the whole family about how I took back his birthday gift and returned it. I got enough shame from family members to begin to think that I might be the jerk for how I dealt with this. So am I the jerk? Guys, my daughter did want and expect to be paid. If she intended for it to be free, then I would have kept my mouth shut. And also, the wristwatch wasn't expensive. I kept the rest of the money after giving my daughter her share. Am I the jerk for having a photo of my son's DNA test framed and hanging in the living room? I am a 32-year-old man, and I met my wife 3 years ago. We got married 9 months ago. We have a baby boy together that she got pregnant with while we were engaged. Now, my wife used to be a sex worker. No judgment on that, please. She did what she had to do to survive. My parents were always skeptical about her, and a lot of times asked if I really wanted to settle down with her. When she got pregnant, they went nuts and demanded a DNA test. They refused to attend the wedding till the DNA test was done, which caused a huge problem. They ended up missing the wedding, obviously. The test was done because my wife wanted to prove a point, and eventually my parents made amends and we reconciled. They started visiting, and yesterday noticed the photo of the DNA test that I hang in the living room. They asked about it, and I told that it serves as a reminder for why they didn't attend my wedding. They were stunned and livid when I mentioned that I'd tell any guest the same thing I told them. Mum and Dad were mad and asked me repeatedly to take it down, saying I'm being too harsh on them and refusing to let go of the past, as well as embarrassing them to other family members. I refused to take it down, and I admit being sarcastic in my response, saying it goes with the house decor. They begged, then refused to come over anymore until I remove it. My brother thinks it's pretty childish and said I should take it down. Just some additional things here. First of all, my wife doesn't mind having the photo up. She laughs about it sometimes, but she's still carrying some hurt that was caused by what happened. And second of all, no, she no longer does sex work, it's all in the past. And did I mention that my brother and I aren't close? He's known as the crackhead in the family, so that's that. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that leaving her used pad in my brother's place was inappropriate? My wife and I were invited to my brother's 31st birthday. He's single and lives alone in his apartments. So, to give you the heads up, my wife and him don't get along so well, but can be civil enough to sit at the same table. We went and had dinner and talked and everything was going well. No argument or nothing until after my wife went to use the bathroom. Later, my brother went to use it and came back looking fuming. He kept giving me and my wife looks, but I didn't know what was going on till he pulled me aside before we left and told me that my wife had left her used pad in his bathroom. I was shocked and didn't know what to say because this felt highly inappropriate. He said he didn't appreciate what my wife did and that it was a sign of disrespect towards him. I apologized profoundly and said I didn't know about it. He asked me to speak to her or she wouldn't be welcome in his place anymore. We got in the car and I asked my wife about it. She nonchalantly said there was nothing wrong with what she did and that my brother was being ridiculous. I kind of flipped and told her it was very inappropriate for her to leave her used pad in his place, even if it was in the bathroom and in the trash can, because it made him uncomfortable. She yelled, asking what was she supposed to do, and I told her she could have taken it with her and threw it outside, not in his bathroom. That's my brother's place, and he told me how he felt about it. She yelled at me, calling my brother an incel and me a jerk for getting in her face about it. She said she needed to use the bathroom, and it's not like the pad was visible since she dumped it in the trash can. At home, we still argued about it, and she kept on calling me and my brother names. She's currently not speaking to me and is avoiding me entirely. Regardless, I feel like it's his place, and he gets to express what makes him uncomfortable in it. Am I the jerk for taking our son trick-or-treating without my wife? My wife and I have a 4-year-old son. As Halloween approached this year, my son let me know that he wanted to dress up as characters from his favorite show at the moment. These aren't costumes that are readily available to buy, so I was going to have to do some crafting magic and make them. I'm a stay-at-home father, and my wife is something of a workaholic. She could cut down on her hours if she wished, but she's always been a very work-driven and focused person. She's not very maternal. Because of this, my son has never really been very attached to her. They have time together at dinner, but even during times when my wife is off work, like during bath time and bedtime, it's always just me. This isn't me complaining. I signed on for the stay-at-home dad life, and I enjoy every minute of it. I just wish, for his sake, that she would be more involved. About a month before Halloween, my son asked if my best friend, a 35-year-old man, could dress up with us. He'd already assigned himself and me a specific character, and I'd started work on the costumes, so I figured it wouldn't be a big deal to add one more. He adores my best friend. They have such a sweet bond and have done since my son was born. I asked him if he wanted to join us trick-or-treating, and he immediately agreed. During dinner the night following this, I asked him what character he wanted his mum to be. My son said he only wanted to go trick-or-treating with Daddy and his best friend. Over the course of the next month, I would casually bring it up again to my son, and he would continually give the same answer. My wife was clearly hurt, but would always brush it off. Fast forward to Halloween night. I spent weeks working on these little costumes for all of us. As we were getting ready, my wife and I got into a big argument over the fact that she didn't have a costume. I pointed out that if she'd wanted me to make her one, she could have requested I do so, or she could have gotten one for herself. She said it was ridiculous that the three of us were doing a matching theme and leaving her out of it, and that she wasn't even going. In the end, my best friend and I took him trick-or-treating alone, and my wife still isn't speaking to me because she can't believe I actually went without her. So, am I the jerk? And now just a little bit more information from OP. To clarify, I do not let my son call the shots or allow him to make decisions that would harm him. I absolutely will step in when he could possibly get hurt. This was not, though, one of those times. I practice gentle parenting as much as possible, and in my mind it wouldn't have been beneficial to mum and son's bond to force him to choose a costume and include her in the matching outfits when he'd expressed multiple times that he didn't want that. I think that bonding needs to happen in situations where my son is not only a willing participant, but an enthusiastic one. At dinner, there are times when he attempts to interact with her, and it seems like she just zones out or doesn't bother engaging with him in a meaningful way. That is where I think their bonding needs to start, from the ground up, not force via a matching costume that my son has not been receptive to. Another thing I wanted to address, I've seen many comments saying mum not coming should have never been presented as an option to him. You should have asked him what character should mum be instead, which I did. With that being said, I will fully admit that I should have done more to include her. But on the other hand, I didn't think a lack of a costume, we've gone trick-or-treating in the past without costumes, as most adults with children have, would cause her not to go at all. This is why I felt like if she saw it as such a big deal, she should have brought it up herself.